Hello everyone. So in this video, we are essentially going to discuss how do you approach international taxation as an elective paper. This video is not to make a decision as to what elective to choose or how do you make a decision whether to choose international tax or not. If anybody of you all want that, do let me know and we can probably come up with another video on that. But here I'm essentially trying to cover those students who have made up their mind that international taxation is their subject and they want to know the strategy and plan as to how to go about the subject to ensure to get very, very good marks. So just for your reference, I secured 80 marks in international tax, which basically busts the myth that it is a very, very difficult paper or it's not scoring, which is not actually true. If you have the conceptual clarity and if you know how to approach the paper, then you will be able to clear it very, very easily. So let's get started right from the beginning. So number one is the main and the most important thing, that is, you do not ignore the subject because of two reasons essentially. Number one, international tax also forms part of your DT syllabus, and in your DT it comes for 30 marks. So you cannot just read it like a storybook. There will be certain points which you need to remember in your mind, because DT may in the 1.5 day before your exam, you won't be able to revise international tax again. So you have to make sure that जो भी आपने international tax में पढ़ा है, that same thing you will be able to reciprocate it or replicate it in your DT paper, where 30 marks is for international taxation. And apart from that, if you consider like 25 MCQs apart from international tax, almost more than 50% of your paper comprises only of international tax and MCQs. And hence it will be very, very easy to score well in DT also if you focus on this part also, because obviously it is a very, very vast subject. So you do not know like what to cover and what not, but this is the very, very important thing. So this will be number one reason why you do not ignore international tax. And number two is your elective paper is very, very lengthy. Although you get 4 hours to solve 4 case studies, if even if you like do a fresh case study right now after you've studied the syllabus, you do a fresh case study, read it, understand it, analyze it, and write it as you're going to write it in your exam, you will realize that it's very, very difficult to complete one case study in 1 hour. And that is why it's very important to get a hold of whatever study material you are going to take in your exam, so that you are able to finish 100% of the paper. Because I've seen a lot of students who do not complete the paper 100%, especially in electives, and they lose a great deal of marks only because they could not finish it in time, although they were conceptually very clear and although they had an understanding of the subject. Okay, so now that we have discussed the importance of reading international tax in a very, very focused and concentrated manner, we have to discuss as to what will be the study material or what will be the source from which you will read it. So I had done my classes from JK Shah, wherein Sagar Vora sir had taught us. So he had basically focused on the modules only. So he had not given any separate study material, but because it's an open book paper, it's very, very important to do it from the module itself. Or if your classes provide you any other notes, that is also fine. But you should have a fair deal of understanding and coverage of the module so that you can flip through the pages and write the same language in your exams, because the institute will obviously have their suggested from the module, and they would expect that since it's an open book paper, you will write in their own technical language and not in your own words, obviously, because it's open book. So number one, your modules are very, very important. Number two, DT modules for a few aspects, say for NR taxation or for transfer pricing. Say there's a topic of DRP, dispute resolution panel, where which is given an assessment in your normal DT. So you can probably refer that and not refer the module. Or say capital gains for non-residents. So there again, like you would be doing capital gains in very, very detail in DT. So you need not refer it from your international tax module. You can just give a passing reference and you can refer that in case a similar question is asked in your paper. So in your first read, you have to ensure that you read everything very, very nicely, all the chapters from the module and from whatever other material you are referring, and you make an index, because like essentially in my case, what had happened is I had referred like multiple things from multiple sources, say some of them from my handwritten notes, which the professor had given me, and some of it from the module, or some new concept which I don't have to do for DT, but I have to remember for international tax because that is there only in international tax. So that I had highlighted in a separate color. So I will show you how I had indexed all of this because it's very, very important to ensure that everything is in place so that in exams you do not search for material or you do not kind of waste time thinking what is there where. So here, if you see, this is transfer pricing, where like whatever I've written in purple here is something which is there only in international tax and it is not there in DT. And that is why I do not have to like remember it. I just have to read it very quickly to ensure ki open book mein I'll be able to trace where it is. Then something in green is very, very important, and that is why I have highlighted it in a separate color. Now here, if you see, like I had referred my own notebook, some things from my classes sheet and some things from the international tax module. Uh, or sorry, from the DT module. This is the DT module, and this is additional international tax module. So this is basically the main source material which I was going to refer. That is the international tax module. So if you see uska references I've given everywhere, and whatever is in purple is something which is new or which is not covered in my paper 7, but it is covered in my paper 6C. Then this is non-resident taxation. Similarly, like for each topic, you should know if there's a question on indirect transfer, say for example, you should know where you have to refer and where have you made your markings so that you can quickly refer to that page only and not waste time searching. And this is Black Money Act. Now this is also like very important because this is not there in DT. This is there only in paper 6, and that is why you should have a index which is very handy because you won't remember everything. That is why, like if a similar question is asked, suppose if rate of conversion of currency का कुछ question पूछा या fair market value का question पूछा, तो very, very quickly you should be able to run through your module. Then for example, if there's something like form number fees, तो वो मैंने इधर ही लिख दिया था so that I need not refer the module again. Then इसमें assessment और वो सब काफी था, appeals, assessments, notice of demand, all of that. So like it should be very, very well made. Then this is international tax का other chapters का index, as in where to refer what from, normal index. And then this is DT. So this is something which is there in my DT book, but which may be as an international tax. For example, as I told you, capital gains for non-residents or a tax rate. Like normal, they may ask you like enhanced surcharge wala jo individual ko bhi 25%, 37% hai, that they can incorporate in a non-resident taxation question and ask you. There was a MCQ on that in our paper. So for tax rates, like whatever summary I had made that. Then marginal relief, scheme of partial integration पे एक पूरा case study था on that agricultural income and non-agricultural income and how do you compute tax there, then composite income, then TDS for non-residents. Again, like I referred my DT book only and not referred the international tax book there because it was something which was replicating and I didn't want to make my markings again and confuse myself. Then chapter 6A deduction, then penalty, prosecution, clubbing. So like these are prospective questions which may be asked in 6C also, and that's why I made an index as to what to refer where from. So this is your index. Then in your first read, you also have to identify points which you need to remember for paper 7. So what you do is you just make a list of those points so that paper 7 ke din, like on your DT paper in the morning, you only refer those summaries and limits and you do not refer the chapters again because you won't get a lot of time. But you refer all of this because you may be asked MCQs or you may be asked something which you might not remember if you've studied 2 days pehle. Say for example, BEPS में action plan numbers, like which action plan number is, what is the heading of each action plan and what is the base. So basically preventing treaty abuse, there were 3 points, LOB, PPT and title preamble. So all of that. So you need to have a fair understanding in a single page, entire BEPS is covered here. Then which are the minimum standards that are marked separately. Then form numbers of international tax. Now this is important for DT and international tax both, where if they ask you anything, like your form numbers are very, very handy and you need not refer your module again, Seedha you can refer here. So section, particulars and form numbers. Then equalization levy ka form numbers and all the due dates and fees and everything, because this you need to remember for paper 7. So this you can revise during paper 7 also. Then interest penalty. Now this is additional, as you can see, this is additional only for paper 6C. where there are some extra form numbers which I had got from some place, which I had noted down everything together. Then this is Black Money Act. Again, this is not there in paper 7. This is there only in paper 60. So I had written everything down together so that I need not refer the module if a similar question is asked. Then this was APA and advanced rulings. Okay. So APA and advanced rulings are like sometimes it's very confusing because like the penalties and the limits and all are quite similar, applicability and all. So I had written them side by side so that I can compare and remember it very well. Then this is special rates. This is a very important topic, and this is very frequently asked in paper 7 also. There's at least one question here on all the special rates, especially 115 BBA and this one, 115A. So I had written everything together here. So this is the normal rates and TDS ka rate separately. And then there were certain sections where if you file your return of income and if TDS has been deposited, then you need not file your return of income. See, no return of income if no other income, and if TDS has been correctly deducted. So those sections I had separated by a hash so that I remember ye sections mein this provision is applicable. Then these were all the monetary limits. For example, starting from transfer pricing 20 crore, 1 crore, 1 crore, then master file, local file, CBCR, then capitalization, then this is equalization levy ka limit, which is 1 lakh. Then POEM will be applicable only if gross receipts or turnover exceeds 50 crore. Then indirect transfer ka all the limits. Then MLI ka all the dates. So this may be asked in MCQs or this may be even asked in paper 60 somewhere. So it's good to collate it all together. Then this was GAR ka limit, which is 3 crore, which is the tax benefit. So if tax benefit is less than 3 crore, then GAR will not apply. So this you have to keep in mind. Then this was some tax treaties, may say, some things to remember. So this was all the limits and summaries which I had made to ensure that I cover everything in paper 60 as well as paper 7, and I do not waste a lot of time. Next is the trick point. So here basically whatever mistakes I was making or whatever is I feel is very confusing or things where I may make a mistake, I'd basically written all the pointers down. So you can probably just read through it, and if you do not know any point or if you feel that even you need to note anything down, you can write it in your notes. Then, so after your first read is over, essentially the focus point should be on doing the case studies. But so there are more than 30, 35, 36 case studies, or to be precise, there are 38 case studies. So obviously, like even if you consider 1 hour per case study, it will come to around 40 hours, which translates to close to 4 days. So essentially, at least in my case, I did not get 4 separate days only to do case studies at a time the entire day. So what I had done is after my first read, whenever I used to study the other subjects during the day, every night for 1 hour or 1.5 hours, I used to solve one case study, analyze all the answers, and then maybe discuss with my professor or friends on whatever queries I have and get them resolved, and write whatever mistakes I'm making and put a star mark against like wherever you're going wrong, so that the next time you need not solve the entire case study again. You just refer your mistakes and you're done with it. So here what I had done is I had summarized all the case studies. Now this is a very good exercise, mainly because if you get a direct question, say if you get a question on thin capitalization, which is very similar to a question in mock test paper, then you need not like refer thin capitalization notes again and form your answer or construct your answer. You already have a ready-made answer in the solution to the case study, and you can basically copy paste from there. So this is very important for that. But actually, unfortunately, in our attempt, there were no questions which were very similar to case studies. So I could not use this sheet which I had made very frequently, or I could not use it as much in my paper. But they may ask in the future attempts, and you'll be able to use it then. So this basically has all the case studies, then the chapter, and then the party name, as in like the way in which you identify the case study. So this was from my classes sheet, which was essentially from some of the MTPs or some of the I think sample case studies which the institute had uploaded. And this was from the MTP booklet. It was from the suggested of all the previous attempts and from the recent MTPs. And what I had done is whatever is in purple is something which is very, very different or which is very unique to that case study. And so that if I get a question on a scheme of partial integration, say agriculture wala, then I can directly refer serial number 4, which I had given in my case study. So I had basically put post-it flags against the spiral bind of my case study book and given these serial numbers so that I can directly refer it. Then whatever is in red in the serial number are the case studies which I need to refer again or I need to solve again in my second or in my third read because I did not get the approach very right in the first time. So this was the case study compilation. Then this is done, like all the case studies are solved after your first read, and after the case studies and like when you get the time for second read again, like you refer everything which you've read in the first read, like everything which you've highlighted and marked, all your summaries, limits, trick points, and you ensure that you at least revise this twice, although it is open book, but you need to get a hang of the concepts. For example, like in tricky chapters like model tax conventions, which are not in as much detail in paper 7, you need to read it at least twice to get an understanding as to what is happening in the chapter, because it's slightly difficult to understand owing to the technical language. Now, finally, coming to the exam day plan or the 1.5 day plan. So in our case, we had 2.5 days. We had an extra holiday in international tax, which I had utilized to study a part of direct tax, obviously, because direct tax is very, very vast. So what I had done is on the day on which my paper 5 ends, that day I had done everything related to direct tax and all the small chapters or the chapters which are not very frequently asked. For example, house property, salaries, clubbing, set off, deductions, all of that. And then on the next day in the morning, I had done capital gains. Now, this is because capital gains was something which I had a very good hold on. And this was something which I had done very much in my articleship. And that is why I felt that my retention would be more there. And it's okay if I do it 2-3 days before my DT paper, I will still be able to write it in my DT paper. So I did capital gains, income from other sources, dividends, and 115R, that is mutual fund income distribution. All these topics I had done during paper 60 in the morning. Then I had started with paper 6C. So there was some delay in finishing all of that and in starting this, but this is essentially what I had originally planned. Then I had started with international tax, all the topics, and then next day NR taxation, double tax relief, and all the other small chapters. Then lastly, yeah. So if you see 430 to 515, what I've done is in model tax conventions in Article 5, that is permanent establishment, there are certain case laws. For example, the Formula 1, Jebon Corporation. So they've just cited the case law and written one line about it. But there was one question in mock test paper on Formula 1, which was very, very detailed and which covered aspects which were not given in the module, but which were given in the original case law. So what I had done is I had taken a print of whatever the case law citations were given, but not of the bare case laws because like they were very, very huge, more than like 10-20 pages. So I had taken prints of all the alerts given by certain big fours. For example, PwC gives an alert of any tax ruling or anything which impacts their clients. So if you just like write the case law ka name on Google, you will get quite a few summaries by big fours or by other mid-sized firms, which you can print and you can mark whatever is the important point, so that if a similar question is asked, say on Jebon Corporation or on Formula 1, you'll be able to write it very well. Then from 7 p.m. onwards, like one day before exams, I started with a case study frenzy, which was basically all the case studies which I had marked and all the things which I had marked in the case studies to refer again. And then on the next day, all the limits and all the DT related stuff and all the final revision which I had planned. Now this is the final and most important thing, which is the books to be carried. So here I would advise that you carry your paper 7 modules also. In our case, it was not very helpful, but they may ask you penalties or they may ask you something which is not covered in 60 module, and that is where paper 7 modules come handy. So you carry paper 60 modules, paper 7 modules, and whatever are your notes, then whatever are your like summary sheets or everything, then all the case law prints. So this case studies or case studies index which I had made, I had pasted this on the first page of my case study ka spiral bind, so that I can refer it very quickly. So this case study booklet, then case laws which I told you on PE, and then the index. Now, apart from that, this I have not written, but the Income Tax Act. This is very important. So even I had carried the bare Income Tax Act, which is basically it's published by Taxman. So if you carry the bare Income Tax Act, there are certain questions asked in exams which will not be covered in your module, or which will require interpretation of law, basically interpreting a proviso or interpreting an explanation given in a particular section. And that is where the bare act comes into picture, where you need to read it again 2-3 times to get the correct answer. So there were a few, I think dispute resolution panel pay, there was one question in our attempt which was directly from the bare act, which was not given like anywhere else. But if I read, when I read the bare act, since I had carried it, I got the answer very quickly. So it's good if you carry the bare act, because there may be certain questions like that also. And like everybody of you all know that international tax is a paper where the question papers have been quite unpredictable, and the institute sometimes asks something from some past circular or some notification or something which the students are generally not aware of. So that is a little bit of it is on luck, but if you like study the subject very, very well conceptually, and if you have the passion for the subject, I think it will be very easy to crack this paper. Now, finally, going on to how do you plan during your exams? So during the 4 hour, 15 minutes time, so 15 minutes is essentially for reading, but if you understand here, you will get 5 long case studies which you need to read, and you need to eliminate one, and you need to order the other 4 as to how you want to attempt in your exam. So here I would advise, many students do tell you that you read the MCQs first or read the questions first and then decide. But personally for me, I am a believer that I need to read the case study first and get a hang of what it is about and get a base of what it is about before going to the questions. So I used to very, very quickly refer the case study. Like I used to read it like a story, not understand it very much, but just kind of think in my mind what are the chapters on which the case study is, and is this something which I'm comfortable with. So for example, of all the 5 case studies, there's one case study on which the topic is something which you do not have a lot of understanding on, or you think that it is not covered in your module, or it is something which is very, very tricky and you won't be able to do it within a 1 hour period, then you eliminate it altogether if there is anything like that. Or if there's nothing like that, then you quickly refer and you see like which case study are you most comfortable with, or which is it which is very similar to a previous case study asked in an MTP or in a past paper. And that is why you have a good understanding of how to approach and how to write answers, and you solve those case studies first. But do not waste a lot of time on reading the case studies too much, because that will take more than half an hour, and you cannot afford to spend that much time just reading the case studies in the beginning to make a decision. So essentially in around 20 minutes, even if you do not cover all the case studies in 15 minutes, 20 minutes should be enough, where 20 to 25 minutes, where you decide the order and you eliminate one case study, and then you start solving the case study. So again, while solving it full-fledged, like while attempting the paper, you will read the entire case study word by word and underline the important points, and then go to the questions in order to solve the subjective and MCQ parts very easily. Now, this is my personal opinion, and it may differ from person to person, and many people may want to refer the questions first, but this is something which I had followed. Lastly, I think just go for it and just do it with dedication, and I'm sure you all will be able to crack it. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much. Happy studying.